Hello right guys, it's Jade Plays Games with a special Atlas Captain's Log video. Atlas has had some changes over the last week or so. If you caught up with me on Twitter or you saw my Atlas is Ruined video, you know I wasn't too happy with some of them changes. Now over the course of the week, the game has updated quite a bit. They've made some of them changes less harsh, and in today's company or Captain's Log, I really feel like they're going in the right direction. So it's time to take off the hat, just like I did for the last video, and talk seriously about the future of Atlas and how the changes I think are going to really be good for this game going forward, that it's a pirate game and not a boring grind fest. Okay, so let's face it, you don't need to see my boat race all the time while we're doing it. But Jack, the community manager, has just popped this out, and we'll go over some of the changes in the latest patch update news as well. Ahoy Pathfinders! Over the past week, the crew have been engaged in deep discussion over the core design and philosophy of the game. We'll be making changes based on your feedback and our internal reviews over the past 5 weeks. This Captain's Log is going to take a high level look at our plans going forward. So it goes on to say, we recognise that a lot of the game fun mechanics and gameplay that players enjoy, especially when you can live out your dreams of being a pirate. However, the feedback we often receive is that it's too tailored to large companies, alpha groups and hardcore players. A large number of you expressed that you are unable to make progress to this stage of the game due to the hardcore design, i.e. it's literally ARK. Our thinking going forward, with the community's help and feedback, we plan to make the game less punishing and reduce the steep climb required for players to reach the parts of the game which make it special. This means we're going to change core systems to ensure that those who do not have as much time to invest or play in small groups or as solo players are still able to experience the higher seas of Atlas. For those of you in large companies, worry not, as you are still a fundamental part of our design and key to the game's vision. We believe there are changes we can make which will make the game more immediately accessible for everyone and overall more enjoyable, without taking away from the heights that large and dedicated groups of players can achieve. Also, players will be able to experience the best parts of this humongous shared persistent world, whether you're a solo player, a small group, a large company, or a massive one. I've paraphrased slightly there if you hadn't already guessed. Some of our design changes will involve around allowing players to experience the piracy side of the game immediately while not trivialising the content, making sure that solo players and smaller groups feel safer when logging off, or that after they've taken a break they can come back and know it won't be such a difficult feat to get out on the seas again. Incensitise companies to neutralise their territories, inviting others to make use of the land so that both can benefit. Also, more MMO aspects, player markets, player specified, automatic trade routes, additional quests and daily missions. They'll also be continuing with focused on bug and exploit squashing, stability and performance, relevant quality of life and content additions to meet game and community needs. We plan our first real serious round of adjustments with this philosophical change in mind around March, as we're already well into prepping the February content update. So that will proceed with some changes, and this will continue relentlessly going forward. This is great news, and one of the biggest criticisms I had when I had a little talk with Jack over social media was, I want the game to succeed, and I think if they take on board the feedback more of what their players are saying across the forums, they can really make a more popular game. Forget all the bullshit over the start of Atlas. At its core, there is something here that can be made special. It might not ever be as big as ARK Survival Evolved, but it certainly has got lots of potential if they treat it the right way. Also, treating the community is the biggest thing as well. I wasn't upset last week when they nerfed stone. If you don't know, they basically made it a lot harder to get stone structures up and running, and when you did get them up and running, they were a lot easier to destroy. So this basically effectively killed PvP content. Now, I know it's early access and it changes all the time, and I'm sure they'll do something else that will piss me off and piss off the majority of the players on the game. But that's not what people get so upset about. Sometimes it's about context. It's about giving people explanation of why they're making them changes. So in hindsight now, we can say they made them changes because they want players to be out at sea more. They want players to be not building mega bases on these small little islands. They want the focus to be on pirate combat. None of that was made clear, and so that's why it created a bit of a backlash during the week. But with stuff like this, where they're iterating their design, where they're iterating the future, and they're promising things that will make up for the fact that stone is going to be reduced in importance, or whatever other mechanics going forward might change, you get an idea of where the game's going, and that can help a lot. That makes you realise that some smaller updates that change stuff aren't maybe going to be such a big deal when we've got big things coming as well. So they've finally explained it. As I said, that context was needed. Our initial thought behind the change was that we wanted to buff wood so that it was close to stone in terms of strength, so that early and mid-game players would be at less of a disadvantage if they weren't using stone. Whilst we're not going to be entirely walking back this change, we think we may have overshot with our changes, and as a result we'll be making some adjustments in an upcoming update. We plan to address the availability of sap and also look at base defences, which mean possible changes to explosives and other gameplay mechanics encompassing raiding, to see where else we want to make adjustments. It's something we're still exploring internally, but plan to have patched relatively soon. It's possible that our first round of changes may not be enough, and if so, don't worry, we'll continue to adjust as necessary. This was the update that caused the big kerfuffle, increasing explosive damage to stone structures by 2.5 times, increasing siege structure damage to stone structures by 60%. They then made wood easier to get hold of in terms of wooden pieces. It was no longer a case of wooden pieces being exactly the same as stone. Wood was going to be cheaper to get hold of, you'd be able to make more of it, and it would have better resistance, better defensive qualities. But they nerfed stone so much, or they made it so much harder to get hold of stone structures by adding in new crafting features that you'd have to add metal into it, or you'd have to have organic paste. It was just way too much all of a sudden, and it wasn't no explanation why they'd gone about this. And these are big changes for a big online game. Whenever you're going to adjust and do stuff like this, I think they need to really come across and do live streams or get across on social media more, or just explain it with a little prefix like they've just done. So fast forward since then, and have been adding a bunch more updates. The game is getting updated like no other, as it should. Early on in early access, this is some of the best times, seeing how a game changes and how it evolves. Now, they did make some big changes to dragons. They basically nerfed a lot of it. You know, it's when it's tamed, it's going to not be as strong as it was. That's something I can live with, that's okay. And then you've got land. This is the big one they've added in recently. Stone structure crafting costs have now decreased by reducing the metal cost by 55% and reducing the organic paste requirement by 25%. That helps a lot. That basically balances it a little bit more. So if you are going to be building out of stone, you're not going to have to worry as much about getting so many of the hard to get resources because they've reduced the content. And that's the kind of balancing I'd like to see, rather than big huge changes and then wait a few days and then add this in. It just pisses off the community, and it makes people feel like they don't really want to keep back in the game. Now, they have done it again. They've changed and mucked about with the dragon some more, and as you can see, there's a whole bunch of other features, particularly with the latest ones buffing or reducing, I should say, alpha creature damage. It isn't just a case of PvP babies crying, but the fact is a large percentage of the player base is PvP focused. So yes, some of their feedback may be taken into consideration a little bit more. So there's going to be 2 updates, the February update, late February, and then a big March one, which will hopefully change a lot and make it more of the pirate game that a lot of people want. So, one of the things that are going to be coming up in the future is there's going to be daily missions. You'll get unique and powerful rewards for taking part. This is a real staple of MMOs or any other real shared experience online game. Even games like Destiny have daily tasks, daily missions that will give you buffs, give you certain attributes or give you items. And so of course Atlas does need this. It makes players want to come back every day, log in, get that reward and feel like it's worth making sure they're visiting every single day. 7 more main quests which upon successful completion will provide their own unique skill unlock. So again, just like it is at the moment, if you defeat the Kraken you get a special skill unlock, and they've got this in the works, they've had this for a while. New structure, the guillotine, we've seen that already. You can see a picture now as I talk about it, hanging your foes in a noose taking too long, off with their heads. Now this one I really like the sound of. New feature curses tied to the execution of players. Now it doesn't really relay too much more about how that's actually going to work, but it does sound pretty cool. Imagine if you're about to get beheaded, it gives you a one-time option to curse a player and maybe reduce their encumbrance or make them have their stamina drain a little bit quicker. Even if it only lasts for a few hours, I like the idea of something like that. There's new creatures, new vehicles. I've gone over a lot of this before once the live stream went out of last week, but we've got the giant crab. It's going to be able to carry heavy loads, players, tames and wild creatures. New vehicle, the Submarine, which is purely PvE, about exploration. Obviously it will be in PvP, but there's no weapons on it. You can just get into it, go and scout, and that's it. There's no, like, you know, bazookas or depth charges or anything like that. It's purely designed to get you and go and look around under the ocean. It will have some claw arms though, so that you can actually gather resources from the ocean floor, and you can also be able to demolish shipwrecks with it too. New structure bookshelf, store and sort your high quality maps and blueprints. New environment, the deep ocean trench, a new area to explore guarded by powerful underwater creatures and home to the new crab. Player shops in free ports. Players can set up automated shops in each free port, listing loot for sale and naming their own gold coin prices. This is fantastic. This is exactly the sort of stuff that's going to make Atlas different from any other pirate game or any other game you want to talk about. If they've got this real economy driving through this game, I think that would be amazing stuff. Multiple armor sets to customise look of your company and crew, provided as a permanent unlock for completing quests in addition to skill rewards. This is also sort of good news. I was a bit disappointed when I saw the reveal for some of these armor sets that a lot of them were just cosmetic. None of them are actually bits that you can use in game and they'll give you an advantage or disadvantage or whatever. And I was a little bit worried that maybe we're going to start seeing microtransactions added to the game quicker. Remember, they are going to be coming. They've said they're going to add cosmetic microtransactions into the game before probably it comes out with early access. But judging by what they've said, you'll only be able to get these by unlocking quests, so I think that's a pretty good move. And the Ship of the Damned, they also showed lots of that off. It's coming in multiple sizes, different stats and difficulty levels. That's good news as well, so that means that they won't necessarily always just go for you if you're on a small raft. It doesn't mean you're going to have this big dreadnought Ship of the Damned come after you. It will only be smaller sizes that will recognise you, or they've changed it already, or they've been changing it, so they won't necessarily come and hound you as much. Now, the quality of life changes is pretty substantial too. Reorganised claim flag notifications so they no longer clutter up the entire HUD, and lots of messages going by that will reduce that. The territory map will now display allies as teal coloured. Character creator now is a height slider to make it easier to get your character's desired height. Any dead ships or shipwrecks from your company appear with a unique icon on your map now, so you can find the wrecks. Global territory messaging updating. Currently contested claims will be indicated on the minimap. Search members field added to company UI. I mean, that one there is massive. It's so hard trying to work out sometimes exactly where a claim is being contested. If it pops up on your minimap now, that is going to be great. Players can now mount a sail to directly control the sail's open, close and mount and rotation settings in a more intuitive way. NPCs will be added to free ports, which will allow players to redesign their character's tattoos for a gold cost. And the usual sort of bug fixes and stuff like that. They've also announced a new beta branch, and again, this is perfect. This is exactly what they should be doing before rolling out some changes, making sure that they've tested it a little bit more, giving us a chance to help them. So a special beta branch, this one mostly though just about getting better GPU performance. So again, it will only be temporary, but I reckon this will help a lot, and in the future maybe it'll do this more so we get to try new stuff. Just like it is in Conan Exiles, in Rust and many other games, they offer this special beta branch. What's interesting with this one though is that you'll be able to still play on the latest official network or the latest unofficial servers even if you're using the beta client, so that is pretty cool. So I've already read the section about the woodstone explosives. I'm not going to go through it again, but let's take a look at some of the other stuff. As of Monday, we released an update which significantly reduced the amount of power that alpha creatures held, as well as how common they were. Going forward, we'll be adjusting spawn weighting across the map for all creatures, so you'll encounter less giant groups wanting to murder your face. After making these changes, we'll see where we need to go next, but believe it's a step in the right direction. And for people that were worried it was turned into a PvP show, there are some specific ones for PvE. Sleeping logged off players will no longer be replicated on any grid, similarly to free ports. This should improve server and client performance as well as reduce some cases of griefing. Forced destruction of any character that hasn't been logged into in 3 weeks, 2 weeks if it's a home server. We'll also be fixing a bug which allowed sleeping characters to contest claims even if the claim has been inactive, so going forward only logged in characters will be able to contest claims. That's great news. In fact, I'm sure that's still a problem on PvP as well. Now there has been some issues with Lionex servers. There's been a lot of complaining that they're just not working and they just can't get the game to run, so hopefully that will be working soon for unofficial servers. And with large companies, they still want to do a bit more. They're going to list the current 5 top companies in game on the map, have a historic archive of companies for when they ruled Atlas using both in-game days and real life time, and special cosmetic items will be given to members of top 5 companies which can be turned off on a per user basis. Unique cosmetic figureheads will be granted to the top 5 companies and will remain persistent as long as the company maintains their ranking within the top 5 assets. That's pretty cool, I guess. Yeah, just to show you've got the biggest dick in Atlas, you might as well have the biggest prow in Atlas as well. They're also thinking about adding a brand new hall which you will go and talk to various different members. You can actually go and talk to your enemies and it will be neutral. This might only be open to the top 5 ranking, companies, but that's something they're looking into as well. So there we go. That is pretty much the future of Atlas lined out again. They obviously have, I think, taken away a little bit of content from the February update, as they've explained why. Maybe it needs to just be put into the March one, it will make more sense. But I think the changes are pretty good and I'm looking forward to seeing this. I have pretty much given up playing on official now though. I am playing it on my 4x4 server with a bunch of other great content creators. If you're interested, you want to know some more, come and join my Discord and ask some questions. But we're linked up. We've got a huge one with GG Fizz, Frasonis, and a bunch of other great content creators. Now the captain's log does finish off with some shots from what the community have been doing and building, official servers, you know the kind of deal. This is pretty cool. I like this sort of stuff as well. It looks pretty decent. That is one scary ship. If that came up on you in PvP, you would think twice about ramming it. And that's not a bad little castle, a little build as well. I like the look of this one. All in all, good changes. It's for the better. I like the way they're starting to communicate with people better as well. I think this is going to go miles. If they keep this up and they explain stuff just before they do the updates or as they're doing the updates, I think it will reduce a lot of the salt a lot of people have. I still think they should be doing live streams every week, going through and rounding up all the updates they've done for the week. I think that's a good way to go forward, even if it's only an hour quick stream, just to literally remind everyone what went on and then give them a little bit of a preview of something that's going to be coming in the game. Atlas is a grind at the moment, and keep reducing that grind and keep making it about being out on the open seas, getting high level gear and loot, being able to go and actually have battles and raids. I think that's key to how Atlas goes forward. I've got some suggestions and some ideas as well about how to make it more of a real decent pirate game. That'll be coming in a separate video, but for now, that is the Atlas Captain's Log. I'm Jade Plays Games. I'll keep you up to date what's going on with Atlas and anything related to open world survival games like these. Until next time, laters!